Alright, welcome back to Resident Evil. Don't know why I said it like that. So anyway, this stuff that we have in front of our item box is thanks to our good old buddy Barry Burton. He's a really nice guy. Throughout Jill's story, and by throughout I mean he does this I think twice, he will leave you some items which are really useful. Here you can see I think he gives you 2 handgun clips, some grenade rounds. He gives you 2 first aid sprays. Actually, that's, I think, 3 handgun rounds. So, at this point, we're gonna have actually too much handgun ammo. We're gonna have so much handgun ammo, we don't know what to do with it. And I think right outside of this, the save room, there should be a letter on the wall from Barry saying, like, hey, I gave you some stuff, Jill, you're welcome. And that is one of the things that, obviously, since you don't have Barry with you in his story, Chris doesn't get any stuff from Barry. He gets other stuff, but nothing from Barry, because no love for Barry there. And that's actually something I should get into regarding Chris's playthrough. I don't know at this moment if I'm going to do one. At least not immediately. I definitely am not going to do one immediately. I'm not going to do Jill and then jump right into Chris. Like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to do Chris's, because gameplay-wise, it's pretty much exactly the same. It's just the story is slightly different, obviously, because it's Chris and Rebecca instead of Jill and Barry.
I'm okay. The others...
You know what, I gotta say, it is always a pleasure talking to you. Like, Richard, seriously. Half the stuff that comes out of that guy's mouth is absolute, utter nonsense. The pain, it never stops, does it? The others... I assume the others are as completely incompetent as you are. Okay, yeah, that guy's not dead. I think that's the first zombie that has ever gone down by way of kneecap shot. But anyway, going back to Chris. I had an idea, and it was that I bring my friend Chris in to play Chris's story. He's never played a classic Resident Evil game before, so we would play it on, like, very easy, just so... I don't know, something different, someone who's never played the game before on, like, an easier difficulty playing Chris's story, I think could be fun. But some of the differences in Chris's story and Jill's story is that Jill gets 6 item slots instead of Chris's 4. Which is, like, that's whatever. It just makes Chris's a little bit more annoying, because there is a ton more backtracking because of the limited item slots. You can either just prioritize, like, what you want in your inventory at a given time, or you can just, you know, go back for things, which takes a little too long in my opinion. I'd rather just prioritize some things. So there's more backtracking in Chris's story. Jill is the weaker of the 2 characters. Jill doesn't have very good health in this game. I don't think it takes more than, like, 4 or 5, like, good attacks to really kill Jill. You know, kill Jill. Chris has a lot more health, and they both get, like, kind of unique weapons at some point in the game. Like, we've seen Jill has the grenade launcher, which Chris does not get. Obviously, another big difference is that Jill gets Barry as a support character, Chris gets Rebecca Chambers. But the story is pretty much the same. They have different cutscenes, but they obviously, you know, the point A and point Z are the same. Game starts the same way, ends the same way. So it's, for me, it's not a big deal if I don't do Chris's story. Another thing I was kind of toying with, I know I'm talking about this a long time and not really explaining what's going on screen, but I think the stuff that's happening is pretty self-explanatory. This puzzle is really easy, and it's one of those things where I've played this game so many times, I don't know what the solution to this puzzle is, I just always do the same thing each time. You have to first push the guy in the top right, and then bottom left, bottom right, and then everything falls into place. I think there's a note in here that gives you a hint, but that is just what I've always done. So anyway, one of the things I was toying with was doing Chris's story in the original Resident Evil, like the director's cut on the PS1, because I thought that'd be interesting. It's not the same experience, you know, it's a completely different game, essentially. But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, if I wanted to do the PS1 Resident Evil game, I'd want to do Jill's story, because that's where all the goofy shit is from. You know, that's where all the really great Barry lines are from, is from Jill's story. Chris's story is just playing the Resident Evil 1, you know, which is, I'd much rather play this game, so I don't know. I'm considering Chris's story. That plaque that's there in that hallway is an optional thing that you really don't ever need to do anything with, but I will anyway, just to show, I guess, what it is. Essentially what it is you take it to one specific room, you burn it, and then you get a map, which is really just completely useless in my opinion. I don't need a map in this game. Well, sometimes I can get a little turned around, but yeah, it certainly is a thing that you can do. As far as I know, I don't think Barry will, like, ever go back to the same place and give you, like, items again once you've already picked them up. I think it's only the 2 times that he really gives you stuff. I gotta say, I brought it up before, but the fact that they didn't need to put the loading screen doors in this game is really quite annoying. Like, they're literally here just to be like, well, it wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without the 5 to 10 second, you know, videos of a door opening. I personally really could have done without them. Or, you know what, here's a good middle ground. Let me skip them, please. They're still not nearly as bad as Code Veronica's, where, you know, sometimes Claire gets scared and takes like an extra 10 seconds to go through the door or up the stairs. I think Jill got it pretty lucky when it came to stairs in the series. I don't remember, but I think Resident Evil 3 was the first one, or maybe it was Code Veronica, where you could actually walk upstairs without having to press a button. So, this game, it's the same thing. So Jill's like the only character in the series capable of walking upstairs correctly. Oh yeah, that's right. This area is really quite bizarre, I must say. I would love to get into the head of Oswald E. Spencer, and what the fuck was he thinking with this mansion?
Jill.
Barry, I didn't mean to get you that excited.
Right. Anyway, you should read this.
So here we got a file. You can pause and read these. I'm not going to read them out loud because I trust that you can, in fact, read for yourself.
What do you make of it?
Well, I guess we were right about this mansion being quite unnatural.
You have a way with
No!
understatements.
Where's the part that's torn off?
Well, my only guess is that it was the most important part, and somebody didn't want anyone to see it. Let's continue our investigation.
That's comparable to, like, Jill at the end of the game fighting the tyrant on the heliport, saying, I just noticed there are monsters in this mansion. Like, what? I don't know. Some of the dialogue in this game is really weird. Speaking of really weird, this is a very weird puzzle. We don't want to touch anything with that. We do, however, want to combine those. This is a, like, fishing lures, I do believe is what this is. We want to take the bee, and then we want to place the hornet, or whatever the fuck this thing is, over there. And then we place the bee here. It's a very easy puzzle. I don't know what the purpose of it was exactly. And speaking of of things I don't quite understand the purpose of, there's a spooky bee that attacks Jill. That thing is huge, by the way. I don't know if they're like special zombie bees, but it attacked Jill, and it's huge. All you have to do is just leave that room. I don't know if that bee will still be in there if you ever go back to that room, but guess what? You don't ever need to go back to that room. And I don't actually know if the bees can do damage to you. Kinda like the insect enemies from Code Veronica in that one part towards the end, where they're just there, they look like they attack you, but they don't do any damage. And see, I wasn't kidding about this. This is our main base. We will be coming back here very often. And thanks to Capcom and Shinji Mikami, we will get to see a 10-second loading screen that's not really loading anything every single time we come through here. See, there's a note behind Jill there. It's from Barry, like, Jill, you're the master of unlocking, and you have to, yeah, it's written from, by Resident Evil 1, the original Barry. There's 2 Barrys just floating around here. So, I think I'm gonna just start talking about some stuff that is completely unrelated to what's happening. And that is that I'm pretty sure if you've ever watched any of my videos before, you know I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and Resident Evil is my favorite series of video games. I love Resident Evil, and I truly think that there is not a survival horror series that gets as close to being as good as Resident Evil. Silent Hill is the one that's like, they're good. They're even great, you know. Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 are great games. But that series just went downhill quick. And there are way more bad Silent Hill games than there are good. Even if you're one of the people who don't like 5, 6, like Revelations and those games, there's still 0, 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and 4. That's 6 games of being good as opposed to like 2 or 3 bad ones, quote-unquote bad ones. I love 5 and 6 and Revelations 1 and 2. But then you look at like the one that pioneered it all, Alone in the Dark, which I think is possibly one of the worst video game series of all time. The original 3 games, I would say even back in the day, are just garbage. Anyway, here's a good part that everyone remembers. Obviously, it's not from this, but myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people too, always associate Moonlight Sonata with Resident Evil. Anyway, going back to shit-talking other survival horror games, because I could do it all day. Alone in the Dark, the original 3 are terrible. They're really goofy. You know, you could say whatever you want about Resident Evil 5 and 6, but at least in the first half hour of the game, you don't sword fight a pirate in a survival horror game. No. That, if you don't believe me, that happens in the first, like, 25 minutes of the original Alone in the Dark. And don't even get me started on the remake or the reboot on the 360. The Alone in the Dark is one of the worst, if not the worst, video game I've ever played. And then another survival horror series that I had such high hopes for. It was a series that very well could have dethroned Resident Evil if the developers gave more of a shit about what they were making, and that would be Dead Space. The original Dead Space was and is one of my favorite games. Dead Space is just a wonderful game. I could replay that game as many times as I possibly would want, and I'd never get bored. And then they immediately shit the bed with Dead Space 2, which took all of the tension and isolation out of the game and made it not scary at all. And then 3, which I have not played, but it looks terrible. So I really sincerely don't think that there is a survival horror series out there that has even come close to dethroning Resident Evil. Even if, like I said, a lot of people are really down on 5 and 6. Even with those games, they haven't been able to dethrone them. And I really can't get into some of the more modern horror games. This is where it's at for me. I'll get into why I love Resident Evil next, I guess. I can't get into games like Outlast or Amnesia. Amnesia, I think, is cool. Amnesia is a cool concept. I like the monster designs in Amnesia, and apparently so did the people behind Resident Evil Revelations. But, like Outlast, I think is a dumb game, and I hate it, because it's very silly. You can't have your final boss or whatever be a black cloud of smoke called the Vol Rider. That's dumb. That's dumb and bad. But the reason why Resident Evil, I think, appeals to me is because, I don't know, I like supernatural things, but I also like the Resident Evil way of doing it, where it's, man did this, Umbrella is behind pretty much every bad thing because of all these viruses that they're putting out. And I just love the concept of a bunch of scientists in a laboratory just accidentally, oops, we made zombies, and what the fuck is that giant frog creature? Oh, that's a hunter, Oh, what's this weird dog thing with no skin and a giant tongue? Whoops, we just made a liquor. I love that. I love that, and as the series progresses, I think there's a very good progression aspect in the series. I've said this many, many times, but each game progressively gets more action-oriented to the point where it kind of culminates in 6, for better or worse, depending on how you like that game. 1 is straight up silent, not Silent Hill, survival horror. I got my SH's mixed up. And then 2 is a little more action-oriented. 3, there's a lot of action. Code Veronica is where it goes off the deep end. 4, it just becomes a third-person shooter. 5, the enemies start getting guns. And then 6 is, like I said, when it kind of culminates. I left 0 out of there. I don't know where that really fits. But it's that progression aspect that I like. And I like the characters in Resident Evil. They're endearing. I love Jill. I love Chris. I love Leon. Whereas Dead Space, it went directly from Resident Evil to Resident Evil 6 within one game. By Richard. So this part coming up, I probably do differently, or I guess, quote-unquote, I do it wrong. But this is how I like to play this game. We are about to fight our first boss battle of the game, which you would assume to be a giant spider, since this door is, like, all marked up in spider webs. But no, what's actually the opposite of a spider? Probably a snake?
Payback time.
So this is Yawn. He's a snake. He's a silly little snake. What you do is, what you really want to do is kind of get close to his... Oh, god damn it, am I poisoned? Yeah, I'm poisoned. God damn it. What you want to do is you want to get close to his tail. I usually don't care about getting hit, which is why I would say I do this wrong. But getting poisoned's no good. Yeah, I'm poisoned. But anyway, you just stand kind of towards his tail and just keep shooting him. He should go down. Yeah, that was it.
Thanks.
Richard!
Poor Richard, that sack of shit. He doesn't really do much. He exists to die. He exists to keep Yawn busy, to die, and then to get his shotgun. So yeah, Yawn isn't that bad. Really, all you gotta do is just shoot him like once or twice in the face. Richard dies. Grab the mask. He skedaddles. And that's Yawn. And no, that is not the last we see of him. And no, he does not get any harder. So yeah, he's really not that big a deal. And I forgot to pick up the important thing in there, which is Richard's shotgun, which we will swap our shotgun for. This is, I think, the assault shotgun? Yeah, assault shotgun. I feel like it's not really much faster than the normal shotgun, but hey, it looks cooler, so we will be switching that.
Oh, am I poisoned? I need serum.
So yeah, we gotta get Jill some serum. We get it from the exact same room that we got the serum for Richard, so we just gotta trek back over that way. There it is on the map. This is annoying. This feels... Actually, this is exactly like the section in Code Veronica where Claire can get poisoned by Nosferatu. Ooh, I love that. You know, that's another difference between Jill and Chris. Chris has more of a chance of getting headshots. But anyway, I'm gonna meet you at the serum room. And through the true superpower of editing, we are in the serum room. Getting poisoned in this game is a real bitch. It kind of slowly dwindles away at your health, and as I said before, Jill doesn't have great health anyway, so it's really fun getting poisoned as Jill, let me tell you what. Anyway, we're about reaching the end of this video. This one's probably going to be a little bit longer, but I feel like we got a lot done, and I didn't really comment on most of it. This was mostly a rambling video. But anyway, hope you're enjoying the series. I know I am. And I will see you in the next one.